The space station floated in the darkness between stars. It was called Omega 7, and it was one of the biggest trading hubs in the galaxy. Ships came and went every hour. Aliens of all shapes and sizes walked through its metal halls. Some were tall and thin. Some were short and covered in scales. Some had too many eyes. Some had none at all. Among all these strange creatures, humans were still new. They had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. Most aliens thought of them as small, weak, and not very important. Humans came from a planet called Earth, and nobody really cared about Earth. It was just another small world in a quiet corner of the galaxy. Park did not mind being ignored. In fact, she preferred it. She was 24 years old with black hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She was not tall. She was not loud. She worked as a cargo coordinator for a small shipping company, and she spent most of her days checking lists, confirming deliveries, and trying to avoid trouble. Today, trouble found her anyway. The lower market district was always busy. Vendors shouted prices in a dozen different languages. Strange smells filled the air. Walked through the crowd with her pressed against her chest. She needed to get a signature from Doc 47. Her boss had called her 3 times already, asking why it was taking so long. She walked fast, keeping her head down. She did not notice the 3 large figures blocking the path ahead until she almost walked into them. "Human." The voice was deep and rough. It made stop. She looked up slowly. The alien in front of her was massive. He stood over 2 meters tall, with blue-gray skin and muscles that looked like they were carved from stone. His name was, and he was came from a planet with very strong gravity. Their bodies were built for power. They were known across the galaxy as some of the strongest beings alive. 2 more stood behind him. They were just as big, just as mean-looking. "You are in our section," said. His lips pulled back to show teeth that were too sharp. Kept her voice calm. "I am just passing through. I need to get to Dock 47. Dock 47 is the other way." It was not. Knew exactly where Dock 47 was, but she also knew what this was really about. Was not trying to give her directions. He was looking for someone to push around, someone small, someone weak. Someone like her. The market around them grew quiet. Vendors suddenly became very interested in their own goods. Other shoppers found reasons to walk in different directions. Nobody wanted to get involved when we're causing trouble. That was just how things worked on Omega 7. Thought about turning around. She thought about finding another route. It would take longer, but it would be safer. But she was tired. She was tired of being pushed. She was tired of being treated like nothing. She was tired of aliens looking at her like she was an insect they could crush whenever they wanted. This morning, her boss had threatened to fire her. Yesterday, she had received a message from her younger brother. He had been a scholarship he had worked 3 years to get. The reason? Earth origin applicants are not a priority. Not a priority. That was what humans were in this galaxy, not a priority. "I know where I am going," said. Her voice was still calm, but there was something harder in it now. His eyes narrowed. He was not used to humans talking back. He was not used to anyone talking back. "The little thing has spirit," he said. He looked at his 2 friends and they laughed on command. "Maybe we should teach it some manners." His hand moved fast. "We're quick." Most people did not expect that. They saw the big muscles and thought must be slow. They were wrong. His arm shot forward like a striking snake. His huge fist closed around the front of his jacket, grabbing the fabric at her collar. He pulled up. He expected her to rise. He expected her feet to leave the ground. He had done this many times before to many different species. It was his favorite way to show dominance. Lift them up, let them dangle, watch the fear fill their eyes. But did not rise. Her feet stayed on the ground. Her body stayed exactly where it was. Something shifted in her stance, small and subtle, and suddenly she was like a tree with roots going deep into the metal floor. Pulled harder. Nothing happened. His smirk faded. Confusion replaced it. He pulled with both hands now, putting real strength into it. The kind of strength that could bend steel bars. The kind of strength that had broken bones before. Did not move. The silence in the market became complete. Everyone was watching now. Even the vendors who had been pretending not to look were staring openly. His face twisted with frustration. This was impossible. She was human. Humans were weak. Humans were fragile. How could this small female resist him? What he started to say. He never finished the sentence. His hand came up. Her fingers found a spot on his wrist, a pressure point that she had learned about when she was a child. She pressed. His hand spasmed open against his will. His eyes went wide with shock and sudden pain. Before he could react, before he could even understand what was happening, moved. Her feet shifted. Her hips rotated. Her hands grabbed his arm and guided his own weight against him. She threw him. 140 kilograms of muscle flew through the air and crashed into a vendor's stall. Glass shattered. Metal bent. Products scattered across the floor. The sound was loud enough to echo through the entire market district. Lay in the wreckage, gasping for breath, staring at the ceiling with eyes that could not believe what had just happened. His two friends stood frozen, their mouths hanging open. Straightened her jacket and looked at them calmly. "I told you," she said. "I know where I am going." The market was completely silent. Nothing moved. Nobody spoke. Even the air recyclers seemed to have gone quiet, as if the station itself was holding its breath. Lay in the broken remains of what had been a jewelry stall. Tiny crystals from shattered display cases sparkled around him like fallen stars. Blue blood seeped from a cut on his shoulder, where a piece of metal had stabbed into him during the fall. He could not understand what had happened. One moment he had been in control. The next moment he was on the ground, hurt and humiliated, with 100 aliens staring at him. His two companions stood like statues. They had seen their leader throw around members of dozens of different species. They had never seen anyone throw him. The small human female stood in the middle of the path, exactly where she had been standing before. She was not breathing hard. She was not shaking. She looked like she had done nothing more difficult than opening a door. Was the first to move. He was younger than, with more muscle and less brain. His pride had been wounded just by watching his leader fall. That wound demanded blood. "You will pay for that," he growled, and he charged. A charge was a terrible thing. 300 pounds of dense muscle moving at full speed, powered by legs that had evolved to run on a world where gravity crushed weaker creatures flat. His feet cracked against the metal floor with each step. His arms spread wide to grab and crush. Did not run. She did not even step back. Instead, she stepped forward, into the charge, into his reach, closer than he expected. His arms closed on empty air. She was too close now, inside the circle of his grab, where his size became a problem instead of an advantage. His own body was in his way. Her elbow drove into his stomach. It was not a wild swing. It was precise, controlled, with the full rotation of her body behind it. Was small, but she knew how to use what she had. The blow hit exactly where she wanted it to hit. The air exploded from his lungs. His eyes bulged. His charge stopped like he had run into a wall. Before he could recover, his knee came up. It connected with his face. There was a sound like a thick branch breaking, and his head snapped back. He stumbled, his hands going to his face, blue blood pouring between his fingers. The bone around his eye had cracked. He fell to his knees, then onto his side, moaning in pain. Watched his second companion go down. He was older than the other two and smarter. He could see that something was very wrong here. Humans were not supposed to be able to do this. Humans were supposed to be weak. But he was also and did not run from fights. Running would shame him forever. His family would never look at him the same way. his people would spit at his name. So he attacked, but carefully. He did not charge blindly like. He reached out with one long arm, trying to grab her from a distance, trying to use his greater reach. It did not help. Caught his wrist. Her fingers locked around it like metal bands. She twisted, using his own forward motion to spin him around. Before he knew what was happening, his arm was bent behind his back and his face was being driven toward the floor. The metal deck came up fast. His face hit it hard. Stars exploded in his vision. He felt her weight on his back, her hands controlling his arm in a way that sent sharp pain shooting through his shoulder. "Yield," she said. Her voice was calm and quiet. His pride screamed at him to keep fighting, but the pain was too much and he was not stupid. He knew when he was beaten. "I yield," he gasped. She let him go and stood up. The crowd had grown. Aliens of all kinds had stopped to watch. Word was spreading through the market like fire. Some were recording with their devices. Others were simply staring, their mouths open. A vendor, an insect-like creature with too many legs, clicked his mandibles in what might have been amazement. Two tall traders whispered to each other, their long faces showing expressions that humans would call shock. Nobody had ever seen anything like this. Struggled to rise. The cut on his shoulder was still bleeding and his landing had done something bad to his ribs. Each breath hurt, but his pride hurt more. This could not stand. A human had humiliated him, a human female. If word of this spread, and he knew it would spread, his reputation would be destroyed. No one would respect him. No one would fear him. He would be a joke. He had to finish this. He had to crush her. He had to prove that what had happened was a mistake, a trick, something that would never happen again. He forced himself to his feet. Pain shot through his body, but he ignored it. He had fought through worse pain before. His people were warriors. "You got lucky," he said, spitting blue blood onto the floor. "It will not happen again." Looked at him. Her face showed no fear, no anger, just a kind of tired patience, like a teacher watching a student make the same mistake over and over. "Stay down," she said. "You are hurt. If you fight again, it will be worse." It was not a threat. It was a warning, a genuine offer to end this without more damage. Did not take it. He could not take it. Everything he was, everything his people believed, demanded that he fight. Did not surrender. Did not accept mercy from weaker species. And humans were weak. Everyone knew that. He roared and charged. His right fist came around in a massive swing. This was his killing blow, the punch that had ended dozens of fights. It had cracked skulls. It had shattered bones. It had killed. Did not block it. She guided it. Her hand touched his arm, light as a feather, and pushed it just slightly off course. The fist that should have hit her head flew past her ear. At the same time, her foot hooked behind his ankle. Felt himself falling. The world spun around him. Then her strikes came, 3 of them fast and precise. The first hit his throat, not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to make breathing difficult. The second hit a nerve cluster at the base of his skull. His vision went white for a moment. The third hit his jaw. This one was hard. The bone broke with a sound that made several watching aliens look away. His jaw twisted at an angle that was clearly wrong. He hit the ground and did not move. He was still alive. He was still conscious. But he could not move, could not speak, could not do anything except lie there and feel the pain. Looked down at him for a long moment. Then she picked up her, which had fallen during the fight, and checked the screen for cracks. There was fine. She turned and walked toward Dock 47, leaving 3 broken behind her. In the medical bay of Omega 7, a doctor named stared at his screens with growing confusion. 3 males lay on beds in front of him. All 3 were badly hurt, had a shattered jaw, damaged ribs, and a deep wound in his shoulder, had a broken orbital bone and several cracked teeth, had a dislocated shoulder and a concussion. Were tough. Their bodies were built for damage. For all three to be injured this badly at the same time, they must have fought something terrible. A war beast, maybe, or a malfunctioning mining robot. "What did this?" asked the station security officer standing beside him. A human woman named Bora shook her head slowly. "A human cargo worker," she said. Thought he had misheard. "I am sorry, a what?" "A human, female, about 160 centimeters tall. She works for a shipping company on level 12. Looked at the three massive, then back at the security officer. "That is not possible." I watched the security footage myself. It took her about 11 seconds. The doctor said nothing. He simply did not have words. Bora understood his confusion. She had felt the same way when she first watched the recording. Humans had been in space for 50 years, but they were still not taken seriously. They were too small, too soft, too new. What nobody seemed to understand was that being from Earth was not a weakness. It was the opposite. Most species in the galaxy evolved on gentle worlds, planets with stable climates, low radiation, and gravity that did not crush everything flat. These worlds produced intelligent life because intelligent life was fragile. It needed easy conditions to develop. Earth was not an easy world. Earth was a planet of fire and ice. It had earthquakes that swallowed cities, volcanoes that covered continents in ash, storms that could level forests. The sun poured radiation down constantly, and the magnetic field that protected the surface was powered by a core of liquid iron that should have made the planet uninhabitable. The gravity was strong, not as strong as Prime, but much stronger than most inhabited worlds. Every human, from the moment they were born, was fighting against a force that tried to pull them into the ground. And then there were the other creatures. Earth was filled with predators, sharks that could smell blood from kilometers away, big cats that hunted in darkness, insects that carried diseases which killed millions, bacteria that could eat flesh, viruses that could shut down entire civilizations. Humans had not evolved at the top of this nightmare. They had climbed there. They had fought every step of the way for millions of years against a planet that seemed designed to kill them. The result was something that other species did not fully appreciate. Park was not special. She was average by human standards. She had grown up in a city on the coast of Korea. Her grandmother ran a fish market and had worked every day for 60 years without rest. Her mother had insisted that learn Hapkido, a Korean martial art, because every girl should know how to protect herself. She had trained under a man named Master, who had started teaching her when she was 7 years old. For 11 years, she had practiced throws, joint locks, and strikes until they became as natural as breathing. This was normal on Earth. Millions of humans trained in fighting arts. It was part of their culture, a tradition going back thousands of years to a time when knowing how to fight was the difference between life and death. Her bones were dense because she had grown up under Earth's heavy gravity. Her muscles were strong because she had spent her childhood swimming in ocean currents that could drown careless tourists. Her reflexes were fast because the human brain had evolved to deal with predators that attacked without warning. She was not a soldier. She was not a warrior. She was just a cargo coordinator who had learned the skills that millions of other humans had learned. But those skills were terrifying when applied to species that had never needed them. Were strong. Their gravity was heavier than Earth's, but strength was not everything. Strength without skill was just force, and force could be redirected, controlled, turned against itself. Had tried to lift by her collar. He had expected her to rise like all the others had risen before, but he did not understand how humans stood. When a human plants their feet and roots their weight, they become a pillar connected to the ground. Their entire body works together, muscles and bones and tendons all supporting each other in a system designed to resist exactly the kind of pull that had attempted. He could have lifted her if he had used different technique, if he had bent down and grabbed her legs, if he had knocked her off balance first. But he had done what he always did, and it had not worked. And when it did not work, had used his confusion against him. Hapkido was built for situations exactly like that one. It was a martial art designed for smaller people to defeat larger attackers. It used leverage instead of brute force. It turned an opponent's strength into a weakness. Never had a chance. In the medical bay, doctor finished Setting's jaw. They would need reconstructive surgery. He would be eating through a tube for the next 2 months while the bone healed. I need to update my files on humans, said quietly. Bora nodded. A lot of people are going to need to update their files after today. Across the station, the story was spreading. In bars and cafeterias, in trading posts and docking bays, aliens were watching the security footage on their devices. They were seeing a small human woman through a vendor stall. They were seeing her take down 2 more without breaking a sweat. They were seeing something they had never expected to see. And they were starting to wonder what else they had been wrong about. Reached Dock 47 and got the signature she needed. The dock master stared at her the entire time, his many eyes blinking in a pattern that might have meant respect or fear or both. He did not say anything about what had happened in the market. Neither did she. She walked back through the station toward her office. The crowds parted for her now. Aliens who would have pushed past her an hour ago stepped aside and gave her room. Some nodded at her. Others looked away quickly. It was strange. She had lived on the station for 3 months, and nobody had ever paid attention to her before. Now everyone was paying attention. She was not sure she liked it. Her buzzed, a message from her supervisor, a nervous man named who spent most of his time worrying about deadlines. The message said, "Come to my office immediately." That did not sound good. When she reached the office, was packing back and forth behind his desk. His face was pale, and his hands were shaking slightly. On his wall screen, the security footage from the market was playing on loop. "What did you do?" he asked. "I defended myself." "You broke us jaw." "He grabbed me first." Sat down heavily in his chair. He looked like a man who had just been told that his ship was about to fly into a star. "The trade delegation has already filed a complaint. They want you arrested. They want you deported back to Earth. They want the company to pay damages." Felt a small flash of anger, but she kept her voice level. "I have done nothing wrong. He attacked me. The security footage shows it clearly." "That does not matter. We are humans. Nobody is going to side with us against them." He was wrong, but did not say that. Instead, she waited. Her supervisor's door opened, and a new figure walked in. Lieutenant Bora was tall for a human woman, with short dark hair and eyes that had seen too much. She wore the gray uniform of station security, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone who knew exactly how dangerous the galaxy could be. "Mr. Park," she said, nodding at Miss Park, "I need to speak with your employee." His face somehow grew even paler. "Of course, Lieutenant, whatever you need." Bora looked at "Walk with me." They left the office and walked through the corridors of the station. Bora did not speak at first. She just walked and matched her pace. Finally, the security officer said, "The complaint has been rejected." Blinked already. "The footage is clear. Initiated physical contact. You responded with appropriate force to end the threat. Under station law, you are protected by self-defense provisions." But the trade delegation has been reminded that their citizens are not above the law. Bora's lips curved in a small smile. The station administrator watched the footage herself. She said, and I quote, "Maybe this will teach them to keep their hands to themselves." Did not know what to say. She had expected trouble. She had expected to be blamed, punished, maybe even sent back to Earth. Instead, she was being told that she had done nothing wrong. It felt strange, good but strange. They stopped at a window that looked out at the stars. Ships moved in the distance, coming and going, carrying cargo and passengers to 1,000 different worlds. "Can I ask you something?" Bora said. "Yes." "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Thought about the question. It seemed simple, but the answer was not simple at all. "My mother made me take lessons when I was young," she said. "Hapkido, Korean martial art. I trained for 11 years. That is a long time. She said every girl should know how to protect herself. She said the world was dangerous and nobody would protect me except myself." Paused. "I think she was talking about Earth, about human men who might try to hurt me. She never imagined I would use it against aliens." Bora nodded slowly. "My mother said the same thing to me. I took Taekwondo 8 years. And now you are a security officer on a space station." "And now I am a security officer on a space station." Bora laughed quietly. "Funny how things work out." They stood in silence for a moment, two human women far from home, looking at stars that their grandparents could never have imagined reaching. "The footage is going viral," Bora said. "Not just on this station. It has spread to the networks. People on a dozen worlds have seen it by now. By tomorrow, it will be hundreds of worlds." Stomach tightened. "Is that bad?" "I do not think so. I think it is good." Bora turned to look at her. "For 50 years, everyone in this galaxy has looked at humans and seen small, weak creatures, easy targets, not worth respecting. Today, they saw something different. They saw a human woman take down 3 warriors without breaking a sweat." I was sweating a little. "They do not need to know that." Bora smiled again. "You have done something important today. You have made them wonder. You have made them ask questions. What else can humans do? What else have we been wrong about? Those questions will spread. And maybe, just maybe, the next time an alien thinks about pushing a human around, they will remember you." Looked out at the stars. She thought about her brother, his scholarship because humans were not a priority. She thought about all the small insults, all the casual cruelty, all the times she had been overlooked and dismissed. Maybe things would start to change now, maybe. "I did not do it to make a statement," she said. "I did it because he grabbed me and I wanted him to stop." Sometimes the best statements are the ones we do not plan. Bora put a hand on her shoulder. "Go home, rest. Tomorrow will be interesting." Nodded and walked away. Behind her, through the window, the stars continued to shine, uncaring and eternal, watching over a galaxy that was slowly waking up to a new truth. Humans were not weak. They had never been weak. And now, finally, the galaxy was beginning to understand. 3 weeks passed. Lay in the medical bay, staring at the ceiling. The feeding tube in his throat made swallowing feel like pushing rocks through a narrow pipe. His jaw was held together by metal plates and healing gel. The doctors said he would recover fully in 2 months. Until then, he could not speak. He could not eat solid food. He could not do anything except lie there and think about what had happened. He thought about it a lot. The footage had spread to every corner of the galaxy. Billions of beings had watched a small human female throw him through a vendor stall. They had watched him charge at her again and again. They had watched her break his jaw with a single, precise strike. He had become famous, but not in the way he had wanted. He was a joke now, a warning. "Do not bother the humans," people said, laughing. "Remember what happened to." His own family had stopped calling. On the other side of the station, Park was also famous, but in a very different way. Humans she had never met stopped her in corridors to shake her hand. They told her she was a hero. They told her she had done something important. Some of them had tears in their eyes when they spoke. Aliens treated her differently too, not with fear exactly, but with respect. Vendors gave her discounts. Security officers nodded at her. Even the tall, proud traders stepped aside when she walked past. Her supervisor had stopped threatening to fire her. In fact, he had given her a raise. The company was suddenly very popular. Everyone wanted to do business with the humans who had produced the woman in the video. Was not sure how she felt about any of it. She had not asked to be famous. She had not wanted to hurt anyone. She had just wanted to be left alone. But the galaxy did not care what she wanted. One evening, she sat in a small cafe near her apartment, drinking tea and watching the stars through the window. Her sat on the table in front of her, displaying a message from her brother. Had gotten his scholarship after all. Someone high up in the Galactic Fleet had seen his application and pushed it through. The reason given was that Earth origin applicants have been historically undervalued and deserve reconsideration. The timing was interesting. Miss Park looked up, stood beside her table. He was old, his long face marked with the lines of many years. He wore simple clothes, but they were made of expensive fabric. This was someone important. "May I sit?" he asked. Nodded. The lowered himself into the chair across from her. He moved slowly, carefully, like someone who had learned that patience was more valuable than speed. "My name is Prelate," he said. "I am a member of the Galactic Council. Do you know what that means?" "You help make laws for the galaxy." "That is one way to describe it, yes," folded his long fingers together. "I have watched your footage many times, Miss Park. I have studied it. I have shown it to my colleagues. We have had many discussions about what it means." Said nothing, she waited. "For 50 years humans have been in our community," continued. "In that time we have assigned them the lowest status. We have given them the worst jobs. We have them opportunities that we freely give to others. We have done this because we believed humans were weak, fragile, not worth investing in." He paused, his large eyes studying her face. "We were wrong." The words hung in the air between them. "We did not understand what Earth was," said. "We saw a small planet in an unremarkable system and we made assumptions. We did not know about your gravity, your predators, your diseases, your disasters. We did not know that every human being is a survivor of a world that tries to kill its children every day." Thought about her grandmother, who had worked every day for 60 years. She thought about Master, who had trained her until her body could move without thinking. She thought about all the generations before her who had fought and struggled and refused to give up, no matter what their world threw at them. "We are tougher than we look," she said simply. "Yes," almost smiled. "You are, and we should have seen it sooner." He reached into his robe and pulled out a small data chip. "The Council is proposing new policies, better opportunities for human workers, fairer treatment in trade negotiations, scholarship programs for Earth origin students. It will take time to implement, but the process has begun." He placed the chip on the table between them. "This is not because of you alone," he said. "The discussion has been building for years, but you gave us the push we needed. You showed us what we had been too blind to see." Picked up the chip. It was small, no bigger than her thumbnail, but it represented something enormous. Change, real change. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because you deserve to know, and because I wanted to meet the woman who reminded the galaxy that size does not equal strength." Stood slowly. "Take care of yourself, Miss Park. The universe is watching you now." He walked away, disappearing into the crowd of the station. Sat alone with her tea, holding the data chip in her hand. Outside the window, ships continued to arrive and depart. Lives continued. The galaxy continued to turn. But something had shifted. Something small, like a single person choosing to stand their ground when a larger force tried to push them down. She thought about lying in his hospital bed, eating through a tube. She did not feel sorry for him. He had made his choice. He had faced the consequences. She thought about her mother, who had insisted that she learn to fight. She thought about her grandmother, who had never missed a day of work. She thought about her brother, who would now have the chance he deserved. She thought about Earth, that impossible planet, that beautiful disaster, that home that had made her people into something the galaxy had never expected. smiled and finished her tea. Tomorrow she would go back to work. She would check cargo manifests and confirm deliveries and do all the ordinary things that made up an ordinary life. She was not a hero. She was not a warrior. She was just a woman who had refused to be lifted off her feet. But sometimes that was enough. Sometimes that was everything. The stars shone outside the window, cold and bright, and somewhere out there, billions of beings were looking at humans with new eyes, asking new questions, wondering what else they had missed. The answer was simple: everything. They had missed everything. And now, finally, they were ready to see.